All right, now, as promised, we are joined by our guy, Dr. Jeff Pierce, our injury insider from the Michigan Sports and Spine Center. Dr. Pierce, V-mixing in with us here today. You're hard at work, huh, Dr. Pierce?
You know, I'm always working. What are you talking about? I'm always working.
No, I know you are, and look, we got a ton of stuff to get with you on here today. And Doc, obviously the big news in the sports world here locally yesterday, certainly the Detroit Lions injury situation, and probably the biggest one, I think, Doc, the Frank Ragnow torn pec muscle, and it just sounds like you hear torn pec and you think offensive lineman in football. Doc, like, come on, man.
Well, I'm more concerned. Why are so many pec muscles being torn on this team? And this is our third one, right?
Yeah, that one. Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact number, but it's not the first time we've heard it. I know that.
Yeah, you read it, you see it. He went out early. Yeah, the pec muscle's a big muscle. It's the biggest muscle on the chest wall, obviously. It's needed greatly, especially for his position, to hold off those defensive linemen coming at him. I mean, it's an issue, but again, it's one of those things where it's player dependent. And it doesn't seem like it's, they didn't put him on the IR, I believe. I think they're hoping, let's see what happens over the next 7 to 10 days and see if he's going to be activated. So I think that's more of what we're going to do. So hopefully that's all good news. It's not like a major, large tear where he's out for the season. And this guy's got so much grit. He'll find a way to compensate. He'll build up his muscles. He'll protect it somehow. But again, like when we talk about ankles and knees, you can wrap it and protect it and create some type of bracing. With the pec muscle, it's a lot harder to replace that muscle with bracing and things like that. But I mean, the guy fights hard. I mean, I'm sure he's going to come back, not 100%. It's going to be one of those things where he's going to make it to the end of the year, but he's not going to be that 100%. But again, like we've talked about, is he better at 80% versus a 100% guy with less skill? So that's probably going to be the debate we're going to see over the next 2 weeks or so.
Talking with our guy, Dr. Jeff Pierce of the Michigan Sports and Spine Center, our injury insider. And Doc, let me just lay this out for the people right now, Doc, because you brought it up. You brought up Frank Ragnow, and obviously one of the toughest dudes in the city of Detroit. If there's a way Frank Ragnow can play, if there's something that can be done, I think Frank Ragnow has proven that he will do it and he will lay it all on the line. We know the toe stuff that he went through last year, didn't practice all of it. What's the roadmap for this? If he's going to do this, because what you said was telling. They didn't put him on the IR. I think he's going to play sooner rather than later, just based on his history and what he does. He's one of the toughest dudes in the league. What's that roadmap look like for him to get back to playing?
First of all, you probably can't believe anything that he says, because he'll downplay everything just to be back on that field. So that's the mental concerning part. As far as the tear, he's got a partial tear that took him out of the game. So it's probably significant enough, but he probably didn't understand what it was. Now that he understands, he's got the trainers, he's got the medical staff helping him. It's kind of like we said, how much is torn? Is it close to the bone? Is it mid-belly? A lot of times these things are closer to the bone, so they take longer. Hopefully he tweaked the big part of the muscle where we get like hypertrophy, thickening of the other muscle around it, and that can compensate, but that doesn't happen in 5 days. That happens over 6 weeks. But this guy, again, can it be braced? Can he get, wrapped in a certain way? Can he get some of the secret sauce injections to help speed recovery? So I think all the things are good signs. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get any inside information on the actual location of the tear. But again, him not being put on the IR, the MRI has been done, the imaging has been done. He's telling people what he's feeling and how he's going to recover. So again, I think we'll know a little bit more by the end of next week. This week's obviously too soon, but I think a decision next week is he's going to be playing or he's going to be put on the IR. So I think right now we're getting more encouraging signs than discouraging signs for him.
All right, Dr. Pierce, I'm sorry. I'm kind of monopolizing the thing. DMAC, I'll let
good,
you tag
bud.
in a second
Yeah,
here, all right?
I'm learning.
It's just like for me, because I remember Chris Spielman, the story of Chris Spielman from when I was a kid.
Right.
Playing against the Steelers in week 1, he tore his pec in the first quarter of the first game of the year. Didn't stop him from playing. In fact, Spielman wouldn't miss a single game the entire year, but getting himself ready each week was a difficult, gross, and probably medically inadvisable. A former Free Press story outlined the fact not long before the Thanksgiving Day game, a giant blister-like growth burst, and Spielman was oozing blood and dead tissue for 45 minutes. By the time the injury turned the corner, he would shed 2,300 cc's of blood, or in more familiar terms, more than half a gallon of blood every time he would get this thing drained. The reason I bring that up, Doc, is I want it illustrated when he comes back and plays, which I believe he will. The IR, the not being on IR, as you said, probably suggested as much. I want it out there, Doc. This is how this man is built. Frank Ragnow is built different.
He's built different. He's proven it, time after time. He's going to be one of those guys. Does it need to be drained? Is there stuff to do? There's medical care that we can take care of stuff, but he's got to be the one that wants to fight through it. You're talking about Spielman. I mean, he had a different mental display. He played through anything. He'd go through a wall if he had to. I think Ragnow comes from the same type of cloth that I'm going to do what I have to do to play and protect my team, protect my quarterback, keep that defender off. But, I mean, we got to be realistic. We're early in the season. Again, I've used it a lot that let's be smart. Let's have common sense. We're not in the playoff run yet. What can we do to buy this man some time to truly heal and not continue to aggravate it? So I think the Lions have showed some good discretion on the medical side of that. I think we're going to see that here. But again, me being the physician talking and educating the player, I've dealt with hockey, and I know I always refer back to hockey. It's the toughest guys as athletes in the United States. But I think Ragnow falls more into that category that it's going to take every broken bones to keep me off the field. So I think it's his mentality and education that we need to keep him healthy, because you have risk of re-injury and further injuring a tear like that. So that's my bigger concern.
No, yeah, Doc, you bring up a great thing earlier when you said, is this not the first pec that was torn? But I looked down the injury report, and it's not one injury, right? We might have lost Marcus Davenport for the year with the elbow. You had Sam Laporta, who's got a gimpy ankle. You got Brian Branch with a concussion protocol, day to day. You look at Derek Barnes, and linebacker loses to a knee injury, stuff like this. Aleem McNeil with the shoulder. There's a whole plethora of different injuries that are. Is there one more concerning as a doctor than the other? Would it be the concussion protocol? Because the one thing is that, and I know from experience with you going in the locker room, is the first question that we as a player always have: can I injure it? What damage can I do more? So are these injuries that in the training room you're just looking to get it to a point where they can't tear the pec more, injure something more, and why they're on day to day? That should be more of a positive sign that it is treatable and they will be available to play.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the concussion is one that, it's a mental picture. We don't understand the brain. You give me a knee, you give me an ankle, Laporta's ankle, yeah, we can do things with that. We can inject it, we can tape it up, we can give it the secret sauce, or an elbow, a tear. We kind of understand it more. The concussion is more of the area where there's more variables that we can't control. We can't inject the brain. We can't give it nutrition. We try to hydrate it. We try to keep you as fit as possible from a nutritional hydration standpoint for that. Concussions is probably the biggest variable. Everything else we can kind of this is a grade 1 or a grade 4. We can have a prediction. Now we're trying to get more science behind that concussion. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question. I think the hardest things we look at are the concussions, and especially with what concussion before is here's smelling salts, tell me your name and you're back out on the field. Now you got to recite a whole paragraph and be able to answer hard math questions before you get back on the field. The protocols are just so different, but for good reason. I think it's for safety of your future, your future thought process. So concussion is probably the most variable. We're dependent on them. We're looking at reaction times. We're trying to make it more scientific. But again, compared to an ankle like Laporta's ankle, everybody's concerned about him. An ankle can be wrapped. We can get through a season or a tough game with that ankle. Is he going to lose a half a step? Yeah, he's going to lose a half a step. Is he going to plant differently and run route patterns a little differently? Most likely. With the centerman, Ragnow, it's more about how can he withstand that defensive player coming at him aggressively, and he doesn't care that he's got a pec muscle torn. If he's getting around him, he's getting around him. These guys have no sympathy for each other.
No, they certainly do not. They certainly do not. Doc, we appreciate the time. Appreciate you jumping on remotely as well. Great information today. We appreciate it for sure. And hey, man, this is the NFL. You're going to be a busy man here on these airwaves until about February.
Yeah. We didn't get much chat today, but I want to encourage the chat. I like last week we got a lot more questions, and I know people are asking what are my top 5 remedies, and I know we talked about Flexerol 44 and all that. So I think we could play a little bit more with the audience and get that engaged, but.
We don't have time for games, Dr. Pierce. We don't have time for games. It's NFL season.
Here. Get your own. We got our own top 5.
It's Woodward Sports. Here, true.
Absolutely, Doc. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk again.
All right, take care, everybody.
Dr. Jeff Pierce, Michigan Sports and Spine Center. He's a good sport, man. I love Doc.
Doc's the man.
Doc is the man, man. I love that dude. No doubt about that.